Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here with you all in San Antonio, Texas, to talk about our newest product, Elevate. And yes, the Scientific Advisory Board and the product team have created an extraordinary energy drink. This new product, I'm pretty sure, is going to knock your socks off, and we anticipate that it will quickly become one of our best-selling products. But I want to be clear. Because we are NeoLife, this isn't just a typical energy drink. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how Elevate works and why it's different from other energy drinks out there. Elevate is for focus, energy, and hydration. It's a delicious stick pack. It's a delicious energy drink in a stick pack. It contains no artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or preservatives. No added sugar, only 10 calories, and it's GMO-free. Now, here are Elevate's key benefits. It increases physical and mental energy, it increases alertness and focus, it supports a positive mood, and it supports rapid hydration. Here are the 3 ways that Elevate works to increase energy. First, Elevate is a nootropic energy drink, which means that in addition to boosting physical energy, it also helps to improve brain function. I'll talk about what nootropics are and why they're important in a minute. Second, Elevate supports energy production, which I'm also going to cover. And third, Elevate contains electrolyte minerals to support rapid hydration. Okay, so what are nootropics? The word nootropic is derived from 2 Greek words, nous, meaning mind, and tropin, meaning towards. It's a term that was coined by a scientist back in 1972 to describe substances that activate cognitive function, especially with regard to learning and memory. How do nootropics work? They cross the blood-brain barrier, they increase blood flow to the brain, and they improve the brain's oxygen supply. The reason this is important is because the brain is only 2% of our body weight, but it requires 20% of our oxygen needs and 20 to 25% of our glucose or our sugar supply. Our brains need more nutrients and oxygen than any other organ in the human body. In addition to increasing oxygen and glucose in the brain, nootropics help to reduce inflammation in the brain, and they have a positive impact on neurotransmitters, which we are going to talk about in a bit. Okay, so the first way Elevate works is because it's a nootropic energy drink. The second way it works is through energy production. In the simplest sense, energy production is when our bodies convert the food we eat into ATP, which is the energy source for our cells. As an example, a single cell can make and use about 10 million molecules of ATP every second. In fact, the human body turns over its weight in ATP daily. If we're deficient in critical nutrients, then this can result in mental and physical fatigue. So Elevate supplies key nutrients that help us convert food into energy for our brains and our bodies. The third way Elevate works is that it supplies electrolyte minerals, and they support rapid hydration. Here are some of the important things that electrolyte minerals do. They enable muscle relaxation and contraction. They regulate fluid levels in the body. They also help with energy production, so they help convert food into ATP. Now, electrolyte imbalance can be caused by sweating from exercise or illness or not getting enough fluids, or by even taking certain types of medications like steroids or diuretics or laxatives. And electrolyte imbalance creates mental and physical fatigue as well as mood disturbances. There's several studies that have linked dehydration to people feeling more anxious or depressed. Now that we've gone over how Elevate works, let's talk about the ingredients in Elevate, starting with the 2 clinically studied nootropics, caffeine and L-theanine. There are 10 human clinical trials on the combination of caffeine and L-theanine. These 2 ingredients work better together than separately for improving cognitive function. Now, L-theanine is an amino acid that occurs naturally in green tea. It's not the kind of amino acid that builds protein. Instead, it has a calming effect on the body and mind. But because we are NeoLife, we use only the best quality ingredients in our products. So Elevate contains a special kind of L-theanine called suntheanine, which is a type of pure, patented L-theanine. Suntheanine is created through a fermentation process, and it's the highest quality and the most clinically studied L-theanine available. In fact, suntheanine has been studied in 45 human clinical trials. And as I said, there are 10 studies that looked at the effects of suntheanine with caffeine combined together. In one of the human clinical trials, suntheanine increased something called alpha waves in people's brains. Alpha waves are associated with a relaxed but alert state of mind. So in other words, suntheanine relaxes the mind without causing drowsiness. So how do caffeine and suntheanine work together as nootropics? Brain chemistry. Caffeine and suntheanine affect neurotransmitters, which are chemicals in the brain that communicate from one nerve cell or neuron to another. We have billions of neurons in the brain. The most recent estimate is about 86 billion. Now, neurotransmitters regulate things like energy and mood and memory and attention and appetite and stress response. Scientists have discovered over 100 neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are critical for healthy energy levels. Several studies indicate that neurotransmitter imbalances are linked to physical and mental fatigue. Now, we all know that caffeine gives us energy. In fact, caffeine impacts multiple neurotransmitters. Here are some of the neurotransmitters that are affected by caffeine: adenosine, acetylcholine, glutamate, serotonin, and dopamine. Let's start by talking about two of those neurotransmitters, adenosine and acetylcholine. Adenosine is part of the energy molecule that we talked about earlier. It's part of ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So when people expend energy, then ATP is broken down with the phosphate part of the molecule you'll use for energy, and the adenosine part of the molecule released as a byproduct. This byproduct, adenosine, lets us know that we're tired and we need to make more ATP. In fact, the longer that we're awake, then the more energy we use, then the more adenosine is released and the more tired we become. Now, caffeine is structurally similar to adenosine, and it replaces adenosine in its receptor sites in the brain. So caffeine is essentially blocking adenosine from working. And since caffeine is a stimulant, it delays fatigue, so we feel energized instead of tired. Also, by blocking adenosine, caffeine enhances the release of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter involved in cognitive function, such as learning and memory. Now, we all know that caffeine has some amazing benefits because it increases physical energy and alertness, it improves mood, it also improves memory. But many of us have also experienced the negative side effects of caffeine, such as feeling jittery or anxious or restless, or some of us might get heart palpitations. And for some of us, if we drink too much caffeine, then we have a hard time sleeping at night. Also, there were two recent studies on caffeine and stress and anxiety on college students. And it turns out that caffeine consumption is linked to higher levels of anxiety and stress. So in other words, these studies showed that caffeine consumption can cause us to feel more anxious and more stressed out. Here's where suntheanine enters the picture. As we discussed earlier, suntheanine increases alpha waves in the brain, which is associated with a relaxed but alert state of mind. Also, suntheanine is structurally similar to the neurotransmitter glutamate. Glutamate has a stimulatory effect on the brain, and suntheanine is thought to replace glutamate in the receptor sites, and by doing so, it creates a sense of calm. Now, it may seem like suntheanine will cancel out caffeine's actions because they appear to have the opposite effect on neurotransmitters. But in those 10 clinical trials, suntheanine and caffeine work synergistically to improve cognitive function. Specifically, these studies showed that caffeine and suntheanine improve attention span and the ability to focus with a reduced feeling of stress. And they work together to improve both short-term and long-term memory. Also, caffeine and suntheanine have been clinically shown to help people switch more easily between one mentally demanding task to another without sacrificing speed. Elevate contains clinically backed doses of L-theanine and caffeine. It provides 200 milligrams of L-theanine and 120 milligrams of caffeine, which is about the same amount in a strong cup of coffee. Plus, the caffeine in Elevate is naturally sourced from green tea. So here's the bottom line. Caffeine works much better when taken with L-theanine because L-theanine enhances caffeine's positive effects and reduces caffeine's negative effects. So people end up having more physical and mental energy when they take the two together compared to when they just take caffeine by itself. Let's talk about the other ingredients in Elevate, starting with taurine and glycine. Both taurine and glycine are amino acids. Taurine, like theanine, is not for building protein. It has other functions. Glycine is one of the most important conditionally essential amino acids, which means it's especially important for building protein during times of stress and illness. They both have important functions in the body. They're both nootropics, they're both neuroprotective, they both promote a healthy inflammatory response, and they both have antioxidant properties. Now, the word taurine comes from the Latin word taurus, meaning bull. Taurine is the precursor to the neurotransmitter GABA, which plays a major role in controlling anxiety and stress and fear. Because taurine is one of the building blocks of GABA, it has a calming effect on the nervous system, which means that taurine helps to balance out the negative effects of caffeine, similarly to L-theanine. In fact, taurine and caffeine work much better together. For example, there was a recent study on boxers showing that caffeine and taurine together improve the boxer's reaction time compared to either taking taurine or caffeine separately. This means that the boxer's ability to react quickly to stimuli was greatly enhanced when they took both caffeine and taurine together. Taurine also improves exercise performance and endurance capacity. It's been linked to reduced fatigue, less muscle damage, and less soreness, muscle soreness, after exercising. In fact, one study showed that taurine significantly improved the time it took runners to run a distance of almost 2 miles. And it turns out that taurine levels decrease with age. For example, taurine levels in 60-year-olds were only about 1/3 of those found in 5-year-olds. Now, as you all know, NeoLife does not test on animals, and we never will. Yeah. However, sometimes a study comes out on animals that someone else did that is so compelling that we need to make note of it. And one such study came out just a couple of months ago showing that animals who received taurine supplements appeared significantly healthier and more youthful than those who did not get the supplement. And crucially, the lifespan of these animals taking the taurine supplement increased by 10 to 12%. If taking extra taurine later in life has the same benefit in humans, it could be equivalent to adding on almost an extra decade of life. Wow. Now, the other thing that, as part of the project, the researchers also analyzed, let me go back actually to taurine. As part of this study, researchers looked at the blood of 12,000 people, and they found that those that had higher levels of taurine were generally healthier and had much lower risk of having diseases like type 2 diabetes and hypertension and obesity. And in fact, they also had lower levels of inflammation. Now, glycine is one of the most important conditionally essential amino acids. We've mentioned that before. It's critical for overall health, it protects muscle mass and function, and it's a building block for creatine. Notes. Now, we have talked, so Elevate, so far we have talked about adenosine, acetylcholine, glutamate, and GABA. And so far, this is what we talked about in terms of what Elevate impacts. But now we're going to talk about how Elevate impacts 2 more neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine, starting with the vitamins in Elevate. So Elevate has 100% daily value of vitamins B6, B12, and folic acid, and vitamin D. It has 300% daily value of vitamin C. Elevate's vitamins have 2 roles. They support ATP production, and they provide the building blocks for neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. And let's talk for a minute about why serotonin and dopamine are important neurotransmitters. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter known to induce happy, calm, focused feelings. It regulates mood, appetite, digestion, and memory and learning. A lack of serotonin is linked to depression, anxiety, and fatigue. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter linked to feelings of reward and motivation, as well as being alert and focused. When we're doing something pleasurable, our brain releases a lot of dopamine. Dopamine also affects learning and memory, and a lack of dopamine contributes to us feeling unmotivated, tired, and generally unhappy. Here's where the vitamins in Elevate come in. Vitamins B6, B12, and folic acid all help the body convert food into ATP, and all three are important for the synthesis of serotonin and dopamine. Vitamin C also plays an important role in the synthesis of dopamine and serotonin. Plus, we all know that vitamin C is an important antioxidant, but what many people don't know is that vitamin C is a vital antioxidant specifically for the brain. Oral supplements generally increase brain ascorbate by 20%, which then helps protect the brain from oxidative stress. Vitamin D has three roles in Elevate. It's critical for the synthesis of dopamine and serotonin. It helps in the process of converting food into ATP. And vitamin D plays an important role in muscle function and repair. And here's the thing about vitamin D and muscle function. It turns out that most athletes, regardless of sun exposure, don't get enough vitamin D. In fact, multiple studies have shown that low levels of vitamin D negatively impact athletic performance and increase risk of injuries. And if we don't get enough vitamin D, then we tend to feel fatigue longer and stay sore longer after exercising. But the good news is that several studies have shown that when athletes supplement with vitamin D3, it increases both muscle strength and power. Elevate also contains choline, which helps with energy metabolism, specifically to help break down fat to use as an energy source. Plus, it's required to produce the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. As I mentioned earlier, acetylcholine plays an essential role in learning and memory. Elevate also contains inositol, which is once thought of as being part of the B vitamin family, but instead it turns out it's a sugar that's abundant in the brain, where it plays an important role in making neurotransmitters, including serotonin and dopamine. Okay, so Elevate works on brain chemistry by positively affecting multiple neurotransmitters, plus it supports ATP production. Now let's talk about hydration. Elevate contains 4 electrolyte minerals: magnesium, calcium, potassium, and sodium. Electrolyte minerals move nutrients into cells and waste out of cells. They support nerve function, they maintain brain and heart function, and they also play a role in ATP production. We don't need a lot of these minerals to have an impact on hydration, so all 4 of the electrolyte minerals in Elevate are in just the right amounts to help hydrate us more quickly and efficiently. Elevate is a hypotonic energy drink, which means it contains only a small amount of carbohydrates. Hypotonic drinks are able to quickly pass through the digestive system and into the bloodstream. Also, there is a much lower risk of bloating or cramps during exercise with hypotonic energy drinks. Now that we've gone over what makes Elevate work, let's talk about some of the ingredients that are not in Elevate, but are common ingredients found in other energy products. Because we are NeoLife, we don't just put fat ingredients into our products for label claim, like many other companies. For example, alpha-GPC is a choline-related ingredient that's found in some energy drinks because it's thought to be a nootropic. However, there was a recent study in the Journal of the American Medical Association that looked at 12 million people. That's right, 12 million people, which showed that alpha-GPC increased the risk of stroke by 46% in people taking it within 3 years of the study date. Also, several preclinical studies indicate that alpha-GPC may increase the risk of atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries. So is this a good ingredient for Elevate? Absolutely not. Another ingredient not in Elevate is arginine alpha-ketoglutarate. You'll find this ingredient in many energy products because it's a popular bodybuilding supplement. But there is to date absolutely no research indicating that it works. So is it in Elevate? Absolutely not. And lastly, I want to mention that at the beginning of the presentation, Elevate contains no artificial sweeteners. Just last week, on July 14th, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is the World Health Organization's cancer research arm, issued a statement saying that aspartame is a possible carcinogen. Now, the FDA disagrees with the IARC, and the FDA has reiterated their stance that aspartame is generally safe. However, let's talk about a study that was published in the British Medical Journal just last year on artificial sweeteners. The researchers studied over 100,000 people and found that artificial sweeteners like acesulfame K, aspartame, and sucralose is also known as Splenda, all have inflammatory properties. I'm going to read to you word for word what the researchers concluded about these sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners, especially aspartame, acesulfame K, and sucralose, were associated with increased risk of cardiovascular, cerebrovascular, and coronary heart diseases. These results suggest that artificial sweeteners might represent a modifiable risk factor for cardiovascular disease prevention. These findings indicate that these food additives, consumed daily by millions of people and present in thousands of foods and beverages, should not be considered a healthy and safe alternative to sugar, in line with the current position of several health agencies. So in other words, although most global health agencies, including the FDA, state that these artificial sweeteners are safe to consume, the research is indicating otherwise. So are there artificial sweeteners in Elevate? No. Absolutely not. Elevate uses stevia, which has been shown consistently in multiple studies to support a healthy inflammatory response. The bottom line is that we only use ingredients in Elevate that have been shown to be safe and effective at improving physical and mental energy. Now, a word about Elevate and UpBeet. It's important to point out that these products work in different ways to increase energy, and that they work synergistically. UpBeet boosts nitric oxide, which not only increases stamina and endurance, but it also helps to support a healthy cardiovascular system. UpBeet doesn't contain any stimulants. Elevate increases energy through brain chemistry. It works on neurotransmitters. Plus, it also supports ATP production. And with Elevate also, both of these drinks will hydrate you quickly, but Elevate specifically provides electrolyte minerals. Both of these drinks are foundational for optimal health and vitality. Now, we gave Elevate to a select group of promoters to try, and so far the feedback has been incredible. People have told us that Elevate tastes great, that it increased their energy levels without feeling jittery from the caffeine, that it improved their ability to focus and concentrate on tasks, that it improved their mood, and it improved their motivation to take on the day. We were also told that it gave people abundant energy and clear focus, and they were able to cross off their to-do list of projects that they'd put off for years, including somebody that told me that they cleaned out their sock drawer. That's not a testimony, I don't know what is. One person referred to Elevate as the perfect energizer and clarifier, and that it increased physical energy without the teeth-grinding effects of other energy drinks, and that it provided mental clarity without the downstream crash associated with other energy drinks. So to summarize how Elevate works, it's a nootropic energy drink, which means it works on our brain chemistry to support healthy neurotransmitter development and function. Elevate helps to support ATP production, which is critical for healthy energy levels, and Elevate contains electrolyte minerals for quick and efficient hydration. Here are the neurotransmitters that Elevate affects: adenosine, acetylcholine, glutamate, GABA, serotonin, and dopamine. And again, here are Elevate's benefits. It increases physical and mental energy, it increases alertness and focus, it supports a positive mood, and it supports rapid hydration. Now, I want to thank you all for listening to this talk today, and I also want to sincerely thank you for everything that you do to get the word out about the NeoLife difference. Every time you help others take NeoLife products, you're helping to end the trend of poor health and chronic illness. I also want to thank the SAB and the product team for the hard work they do every day to make the best products in the industry. And finally, yeah, they deserve it. Yeah, they deserve it. Yeah, they do. And finally, I want to thank Kendra for her inspirational leadership and for everything she does on behalf of NeoLife. And I also want to thank her for the opportunity to talk to you today about our newest product, Elevate. Thank you all.